Welcome to the education phase, my friends. This is going to be very insightful. We're going to build a grid called the buyer's grid. And it is a way to organize the information about our potential customers in order for us to make a decision on whether or not to pursue the proposal. The buyer's grid is going to be explained to you by Ray and Tony, and it is going to consist of the people involved in the buying decision, organized by their roles in the process and our relationships to them. And we're going to talk about our buyers' motivation and their personality profile and the potential objections for moving forward with the sale. So sit back, grab a piece of paper and a pen, and be prepared to learn about the buyer's grid. And I'll see you in the next chapter.
Welcome back, my sales funnel sales masters. Now, on the buyer's grid step, here's where we take all of the information that we've gathered during research and try and compile them onto one sheet of paper so we get a snapshot of where we are. And in fact, here's where we're going to make a decision as to whether we play or not. So if we don't have a high probability of success, why should we go through the effort of trying to do a proposal and go through the presentation process and all of that? Because it's at the completion of the research phase where we're going to make a decision as to whether we engage further. So the buyer's grid, snapshot. You have it in your handout across the top. The players, the economic buyer, the process owner, generally purchasing, the problem owner, the person that has to live with the decision, inside influence and outside influence. Inside influence would be somebody who might have the ear of the CEO, but is not actually on the official committee. The outside, I'm an outside influence to most of my clients, meaning I don't even work for the company, but when decisions are made revolving around my expertise, they will ask me for my opinion quite often. So the goal is, I don't care what you call those people on the left-hand side under the buyer type, as long as you've identified who are all the players. Now, they fall into one of four categories. They're either your champion, meaning they would vote, if the vote was coming down today, they'd vote for you. They're your enemy, they'd vote against you. Neutral means they haven't made a decision one way or the other. And by the way, very few people are neutral. Think about Republicans and Democrats. Republicans and Democrats, 40 to 45% of each of them are always going to vote that way. The candidates are always going for that 10% in the middle that are basically the neutral. Most people have already predetermined what they're going to do. So don't put neutral if you don't know. And the fourth column, of course, is the question mark, means you don't know. You don't know because you haven't met the person or haven't talked to the individual. The plus or minus sign on the buyer's grid means that do they buy to move forward or to avoid? Remember, to gain or to avoid. Go for pleasure or to avoid pain. That's what the plus or minus sign is. What is the disc profile of these individuals? And by the way, if you've never met the individual, it's pretty hard to have their disc profile. In fact, I remember when I had worked with IBM in past years, one of the things they said is if you can't talk to the person that's making the decision, you cannot sell. So they refuse to even play without having access to the economic buyer, which is something that I would highly recommend you start taking into account for your own deals. How many deals have you sold when you've not had access to the economic buyer? And was it worth the effort for the number of deals that you lost? Something for you to answer, not me. The objection. What objection might they have to moving forward? Where did we get that? We got that when we closed on the witty. Remember? By closing on the witty. If I bring you back a solution that satisfies all these criteria, will you buy? Yes, if the price is right. So the objection here for that individual that said that might be price. Then the last column is personal. Do I know something personal about this individual? For instance, Tony, my son. If you were trying to sell Tony and did not know that he was the lead singer in a rock band and wrote the lyrics to 40 songs, you wouldn't have a total picture of him. And if you did know that, look at how it maybe influenced the way you treated that individual. How many people that you sell to are coaches of their little league girls soccer team or their boys t-ball, and if that's one of their passions, how important would it be to know that? If someone's got a charity that they're passionate about, how would it be to know that? I have a client that was big into sports, was a football coach in high school, and was very successful at it. And so knowing something personal gives you a little added information. So, do I know all the buyers and all the players? Do I know where they're positioned mentally, champion enemy or not? Do I know whether they buy to gain or to avoid? Am I sure their disc profile? Do I know what their dominant buying motive is? Remember that I got that when I 3D'd them on the witty, I got their dominant buying motive. Do I know their likely objection, and do I know something personal? Now, if I can answer all of these questions, now I can make an intelligent decision as to whether I'm going to play or not. And in fact, I've created a success probability formula that we may share with you in future modules. But I've created a success probability formula with 25 or 30 criteria, and we plug in the answers to those criteria, and it pumps out a probability of success. And if the probability of success does not exceed 50%, then I don't play. And you put a different weighted value on it. Let's say access to the economic buyer might be a +5. No access might be a -5. Have we any experience in this industry? No, that might be a -2. Really a great reputation in this industry, a +3. When you create a success probability formula, you want to run 50 wins through it and 50 losses and see if the formula would have predicted the outcome. That way you'll know whether you have an accurate formula for predicting. All of you, I know, have a pipeline, and your bosses want to know what's the probability of closing. I also know, since most of you are high I's, you're doing one of these. I think it's 75%. I think it's 80%. Come on. Where are you getting that percentage? Give me some hard facts of why you're choosing what you're choosing.